It is doubtful if there has been a political leader from Kerala more accomplished than Sir C Sankaran Nair or Chettoor Sankaran Nair. He was the only leader from Kerala to become the president of All India Congress Committee. He was a member of Viceroy's Executive Council also. That was a very coveted post. Yet, it needed a speech of Prime Minister Narendra Modi and a biopic from Bollywood named Kesari Chapter 2 for Keralites to remember Sir C Sankaran Nair. What could be the reason for that? I think the reason is the left ecosystem which has got a stranglehold over academic and cultural sectors in Kerala. They promote false idols. They rewrite history according to their wishes. Who was actually Sir C Sankaran Nair? What was his contribution? Why Keralites fail to remember him? Let's take a closer look into the history of Sir C Sankaran Nair, his contributions, and the failure of Kerala to remember an illustrious son of the state. Welcome to Insights. I am Hari Kumar. As I said in the beginning, Sankaran Nair is arguably the most accomplished Keralite in the modern times. I mean, among political leaders. You know, he was an accomplished lawyer in Chennai. At that time, North Kerala or Malabar was part of Madras Presidency. South Kerala was a princely state. And because North Kerala was part of Madras Presidency, many Keralites used to go to Chennai in search of jobs, stay there, etc. And Sankaran Nair was a very accomplished lawyer at the High Court. Later, he became a High Court judge, and some of his judgments are still remembered. The British actually had great respect for him. He became the president of the AICC in 1897. Then in 1915, he became a member of Viceroy's Executive Council and he was looking after education. That is what history books say. He hit the headlines. So when in 1919, when he resigned in protest against Jallianwala Bagh massacre, he blamed the British for the massacre. He had an illustrious post, but that didn't the love for the he never cared about that. He resigned from the post in protest against the massacre, in which hundreds of people, innocent people, were killed. And later he wrote a book named, you know, Gandhi and Anarchy. And in that book, there were critical remarks against Michael O'Dwyer, who was then the governor of Punjab. And Michael O'Dwyer sued him in a British court for defamation. Mr. Sankaran Nair fought the case himself in the British court. Eventually, as expected, he lost the case, but he succeeded in bringing the whole issue to the attention of the world, and one man against an empire. And that was one of the major fights staged by Sankaran Nair. Prime Minister Narendra Modi, in his recent speech at Yamuna Nagar in Haryana, said, everybody in India, especially residents of Haryana, Punjab, Himachal Pradesh, etc., need to recount the contribution of Sir C Sankaran Nair. Sir C Sankaran Nair was not a native of Punjab or Haryana. He came from Kerala, thousands of kilometers away. But that didn't prevent him from showing empathy for the victims of Jallianwala Bagh massacre. So this man's contribution needed to be remembered by each and every person in Western India, exhorted Prime Minister Narendra Modi. And no wonder, It is at present, Kesari Chapter 2 is being played in theatres across India. The director of the film is Dr. Karan Singh Tyagi. This film is based on a book named The Case That Shook the Empire, written by Raghu Palat and Pushpa Palat, who are family or descendants of Sir C Sankaran Nair. You know, Prime Minister Narendra Modi needs to be thanked by each Keralite for recounting the contribution of a leader like Sir C Sankaran Nair. The Congress unfortunately has forgotten him. And I have not heard or seen any event organized by the Congress, even in Kerala, to remember or recount the contributions of Sir C Sankaran Nair. Considering the fact that he was the only Congress leader from Kerala to become the AICC president, it is surprising that the Congress chose to forget him, and Prime Minister Narendra Modi has happily, praised his heritage, praised his contributions, and definitely nowadays this has become a reason for many Keralites to remember Sir C Sankaran Nair. The other day I spoke to a few youths about Sir C Sankaran Nair. I asked him whether they knew about him, and a majority of them said they have never heard about him. Only a couple of youth said they know Sir C Sankaran Nair's contribution, and that too because of the speech of Prime Minister Narendra Modi and because of the film. Is not it a surprise that Kerala's political leaders choose to forget Sir C Sankaran Nair? As I said earlier, the real reason is the left ecosystem in Kerala. They choose false idols. They speak about Che Guevara, Mao Zedong, and even leaders from other countries, but they never mention our own freedom fighters. They just ignore the contributions of political leaders from Kerala in the past. So, this is what I mean. They have a stranglehold over cultural and educational sectors. When you prepare books on Indian history, when you prepare books on people's movements, you don't mention local heroes. You always go for people from foreign lands. This is because the leftist ecosystem is afraid that if you tell about local heroes, if you if the public in Kerala come to know about the resistance put up by our forefathers against foreign oppressive rule, then we will develop pride in our heritage. The communists don't want that. And that is because they try to suppress, they try to put a veil over the real history of Kerala. And they are afraid that if they come to know about the powers of our forefathers, then they will throw out alien ideologies. So, this is the real reason. And now Bollywood has produced a picture on a film on Sir C Sankaran Nair. Why Mollywood or Kerala film industry failed to produce a film on Sir C Sankaran Nair or others who took part in the freedom struggle from Kerala? Because as I said earlier, they want to promote a certain type of ideology. There were even moves to produce a film or a biopic like film on Varyangunnathu Kunyamuhammad Haji, who was one of the leaders of the Malabar pogrom against Hindus. But nobody thought about producing or producing a film on fighters from Kerala. This is because, as I said, certain arenas in Kerala are under the grip of certain certain vested interest groups, and they don't want to remember people who work for the larger national cause. They always want to remind Kerala's about the discrepancies that existed in Kerala society. I am not just ignoring or just dismissing the contradictions that existed in Kerala society, like in every other society that existed. And you need to remember that Sir C Sankaran Nair was one person who fought against casteism, who fought against foreign rule, and he was a progressive in his own way at that time. So you need to remember such contributions. Unfortunately, just because certain people have chosen themselves to represent us, certain people have chosen themselves to be our spokesperson. We don't have even a chance to know about the real fighters of the past, the people who fought, gave up positions, coveted positions for the national causes. So this is the situation. I have found that Prime Minister Narendra Modi often remembers, recounts the contributions of people from even remote corners of India who were not related to the even related to the ideology of RSS or Sangh Parivar. So this is actually an irony. Those people who are expected to recall and celebrate the legacy of many people, they refrain from doing it because they are afraid that if they say about certain people, they will lose their votes. Now they are in company of people. I am actually referring about Congress. Now they are in the company of people who oppose freedom struggle, who never was part of the mainstream. And they don't want us to remember people like Sir C Sankaran Nair. Anyway, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has done a great job in recounting the contributions of Sir C Sankaran Nair. You know, Sir C Sankaran Nair's descendants are also illustrious in many ways. One of his daughters was married to KPS Menon, who was the first Foreign Secretary of India. One of his grandchildren led the Indian Army on the Western Front during 1971 India-Bangladesh War. His name was, I think, uh, General Candate. So, many of his family members continue to make, enviable contributions to the nation. So, it is only apt that Prime Minister Narendra Modi chose to chose to remember a great son of Kerala. Of course, a great son of Kerala is part of the great national heritage, and he was an Indian first and then only a Keralite. So let us celebrate our forefathers, their contribution against foreign oppression. Meet you with such inspiring stories again. Till then, goodbye.